What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. I'm also going to talk about what the option chain is telling us about SPY and what happened today with Jerome Powell. And before I break anything down about all this information, though, and talk about some important levels to watch for many different tickers, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks with the $100 cash reward and additional benefits. The offer ends in just 8 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. SPY is up about 0.36% for the day during the open hours, and it's up a little bit more during the after hours going forward. But for now, let's talk about what happened to the market. So the market got this very nice pump in the very beginning, but then the market started selling off as Jerome Powell was speaking, trading sideways for the most part. Then when Powell was done speaking, the market started breaking to the upside and started to continue to push to the upside moving forward. Now, looking at the current trend, there is one thing I want to note, and that is the market has been uptrending quite nicely and holding above major EMAs for now. And overall, it looks like it's in a pretty decent trend. But the real question is, will the market continue to pump like this, or is the market going to get a rug pull? That could depend on some data, but also on the option chain. I will break that down in just a few minutes. Now that Jerome Powell is out of the picture, finally, now for Friday, we have other Fed speakers, however. We have Bostic speaking in the morning about an hour and a half before the market opens. Bullard is going to be speaking much earlier, but it doesn't really matter as much because that's 4 hours plus before the market opens. Bostic speaking may cause volatility, maybe a little bit of downside by the time the market opens, but then that doesn't matter too much if we're getting a lot of buyers. Now, the thing about this is going forward, when it comes to the S&P data that's coming out, we have the PMI report at 6:45 a.m. Pacific time, which is at about 9:45 a.m. Eastern time, or 15 minutes after the market opens. The PMI report is going to tell us more data about how the services are doing in the markets right now for the economy. And this is going to give economists a good understanding of what on earth is helping to drive the economy up and what is slowing down right now. If these show signs of declines, this is going to show more signs of economic contraction. If not, the market may be a little bit hot. But one thing you have to remember that is if this data is way too hot, this would tell us that the economy is too strong. If the economy is too strong, this incentivizes the Fed to be more hawkish. So be very careful. The market will react to this after the first 15 minutes, and we will see what the PMI data tells us. But other than that, there's not much else coming out other than Mester giving a speech at about 1:40 p.m. Eastern time, basically. So please be ready for that. And besides that, there's not much else. However, for the option chain for SPY, I do want to note something else. Looking at the data from the calls side, we could see that there's a lot of open interest for, let me double check that this is the right one. This is the right data. There's a lot of open interest for that 440 strike. I find that very interesting. Could they be trying to pump the market up that high? It's a possibility, but not a guarantee. Other than that, most of it's pretty balanced so far. But max pain happens to be around 436 because on the put side, when you're looking at it, the market makers are incentivized to try to keep the market around 438 or very close to that area right there. We have a little bit of a higher amount of the open interest on the put side at that 438 strike. There's a little bit more above 436, but it's once again, we're already there. So I would say that the market makers may try to go for a higher level, but at the very least, they are incentivized to keep the market at 436 or higher. So there's a good chance the market's going to try to hold these levels or even push for tomorrow. There is a high put to call ratio. So let me just note that we have about 300 plus thousand calls expiring, and we have over 730,000 plus puts expiring with a 2.16 put to call ratio. The majority of individuals or institutions or other players in this game have puts, and you have to remember that the market makers are taking positions on the opposite side. This incentivizes the market makers to try to push the markets up and do something very differently. We're already at 436, which is where max pain is. So the market makers will likely try to hold the markets up or even try to push us up. It's got to be one of those two. I am leaning more in the direction of them trying to push us up, but we're going to have to watch for confirmation first. Now, even though there are lots of these support and resistance levels, there's one level I'm looking at that's very important. I'm going to hide my drawings, then actually get rid of the extended hours. When you look at the 1 hour charts on SPY, you will notice that without any extended hours, we have a very important zone right here. It's all the way up to about this. Let's see if I could find it. Very close to where this like 437 area is. If we manage to push up and fill the gap, which is close to about 437.2 around there, and we hold above that area, we have the potential to not just stop at 438, but possibly fill this gap up here around 440 and get very close to it. So watch 437.2 for confirmation. If we hold above that, that's going to be a good signal that the market's going to try to push for that 440. And I think the odds favor that there's a possible inverse head and shoulder structure on SPY. We're about to get a bullish cross in the hourly, at least without the extended hours. And to add on to this, I mean, we are looking a little bit more bullish on the technical side, but that doesn't guarantee anything about tomorrow. I do want to note that what's good, though, is we have a bullish divergence right now. So that's very awesome to see. And the odds are greatly favoring upside, in my opinion. I think it's more likely to happen, but we always have to be prepared just in case. So what I'm going to do is talk about the bullish and bearish cases and then break down what I think is a lot more likely. So if we're bullish, right, like I said before, we're going to be watching all this resistance in the 436s. If we hold above 436 and get to 437, we have to watch for that gap fill at 437.2. If we fill that gap and continue to hold above that area, there's a good chance SPY is going to be pumping quite nicely, and they may try to squeeze a lot of these shorts, which are expiring tomorrow. Now, if the market breaks down, watch support at 436.22, which is where our 50 EMA happens to be as of right now. If that fails, let's watch the 435s, 434, and then 433 around that area, which is where the 200 EMA happens to be on the hourly time frame. Overall, the market's holding up quite nicely, showing some strength, and we have a bullish divergence that's playing out. And there's a good chance that, in my opinion, it's more likely the market's going to try to go for that push to the upside. I think it's more likely that SPY is going to try to fight up to try to get above 437, and we may see a lot of these shorts get squeezed. We have over 700,000 puts expiring, a 2.16 put to call ratio, and the technicals look more bullish, so the odds are greatly favoring this thing trying to push and get above 437.2. Watch for confirmation, and if we get that break, we're likely going to see this thing get closer to 440, and I think the odds favor that. But like I said before, I'm always going to be prepared nonetheless for any possibility. But just so you guys know, watch support and resistance, and just know I am leaning a lot more bullish for tomorrow, but I'm always prepared just in case. As for Tesla, this is once again in a very, very dire situation, because when you look at Tesla on the 1 hour time frame, or maybe you could look at like the 4 hour, it doesn't really matter. There's a possible head and shoulder structure that could be developing, and many people believe that this will play out and Tesla will just get rug pulled. Well, in order for that to happen, there needs to be some kind of bad news that comes out tomorrow. And it is a possibility that this will play out, but not a guarantee because it needs confirmation. Tesla's currently fighting for 265 right now. If Tesla breaks this tomorrow, we're going to be watching 270. If it clears 270, it is most likely, it's very likely it's going to go into this imbalance at 275. It becomes much more likely. Tesla will have a good chance at pushing to the upside. If Tesla rejects off 265, it's going to likely see downside and come all the way back down into the 250s, if not get a retest of these lower levels. In my opinion, right, we know the bullish and bearish cases. What do I think is more likely, though? I think it's a lot more likely that Tesla's going to fight and try to get that push above 265 and try to push for at least 270. I'm leaning more in that direction, seeing how Tesla held up and continued to pump today. And because the 4 hour is about to get a bullish cross on the PPO, there's a good chance it's going to make an attempt to break out. I believe also on the hourly, there's a bullish divergence that developed. I think I saw one on Tesla. Actually, I'm not seeing it on Tesla, but I did see it on SPY. So there's a good chance we're going to see Tesla make an attempt to push up with the QQQ and SPY. And I think the odds greatly favor that looking at the current technical setup. I'm leaning more in that direction, and I think it's more likely to happen, but always be safe and always be prepared to manage risks, regardless of what happens. Once again, I am leaning more bullish, though, just so you guys are clear. For AMD, if it breaks below this 110 area, it's still trying to hold above it. We're going to likely see 108 as we have that imbalance below. But for it to turn bullish, it needs to get above this like 50 EMA right here. And it needs to break above like 115. If it does so, then we have like this 120 area very close to it, which is where we have resistance. For now, it's holding up quite nicely. For NEO is also looking pretty decent. It's kind of stuck between support and resistance. So it's very important to look at this carefully. If NEO continues to pump, right, we need to see this hold above $9. If it does so, there's a very, very good chance it's going to continue to pump. But if not, if it breaks below 8.8, then there could be more downside coming. I don't think NEO is going to be that volatile for now because we're going to be waiting for deliveries. And when deliveries come out, that's when it's going to make a bigger move. Now, when it comes to the QQQ, actually, let me talk about Netflix then the QQQ because I think I missed it on my previous video. For Netflix, we're going to be watching these levels. We have some resistance around 425, this entire 425 zone. If it breaks above it, it's going to be stuck between the 200 and the 50. This is happening to a lot of stocks. If it breaks the 50, it has potential to push into the 430s quite nicely. If Netflix breaks below 421, you're going to be watching this 418 to 420 support. If that breaks, it's going to come all the way down to 416. I think looking at the current setup, it's looking like Netflix is trying to get a bounce. It also has a bullish divergence that's starting to play out. So there's a good chance it's going to make an attempt for 430 tomorrow. I'm leaning more in that direction, but like I said before, we're going to watch it in real time and always be prepared for other contingencies. For the QQQ, it looks bullish. It looks like it's most likely going to try to push up more. If it's more bullish, we're going to be watching 368 and potentially 370 as resistance. If it breaks 370, it has more room to push up into the 372s and potentially 375 later on. If it breaks down, watch support at 365, 364.55, 363, then potentially 362, and then 360. I think this is looking more bullish. Tesla, Nvda, and Aapl are playing a role in helping this thing pump quite nicely, and overall, it's holding up very, very beautifully, in my opinion. I believe the technicals look more bullish, so the odds favor this thing either holding these levels or trying to push up even more. I would like to see this thing get closer to about 370 for tomorrow. However, I'm always going to be watching these levels on a level-to-level basis and watching the news just to be safe. But just know I am still leaning a little bit more bullish based off the current setup and based off the options chain and other factors like that. For the Nasdaq, here's another reason why this makes me like a little bit more bullish. I mean, there's a possible inverse head and shoulders, a bullish cross on the hourly, and we have this unfilled gap up above right here, which tells me the Nasdaq may pump a little bit more and trying to get to this resistance. Could make its way up to 13,750 or so. If it tries to pump that high, that could be quite bullish for tech, or at least tech could be playing the role in causing that, right? It's kind of like vice versa in a way. For SPX, we have a potential inverse head and shoulders forming, and we have this gap above that's unfilled. So it looks to me like it might try to go for that gap fill, could make its way up to about this 43.89 area. If it holds above that, there's another gap above 4,400. It could go all the way up to 4,400 if it manages to do so. And this could help SPY in many different stocks like Tesla try to hold up too. Also, the Nasdaq could help Tesla, and additionally with the whole market. In my opinion, the market could help these different tickers, and these tickers could help these ETFs help pump even more. So it's almost like the market's moving in a very similar algorithm, and I think that that's what's been going on for the last few months. And right now, tech is still showing strength. It's not really like tanking or crashing like some people are talking about. There's no really confirmation of tech crashing yet, but there is a rotation going on that could affect it later on during the summer as we get closer to earnings. But we'll have to wait and see on that for confirmation. For Coinbase, I'm going to be watching this carefully. Before I talk about Coinbase, let's first talk about the VIX, then Coinbase. The VIX is just continuing to sell off. I mean, there's just nothing really bullish about this. It just keeps going lower and lower and lower. And until we get a confirmation of a trend change and a hold above the 1 hour 50 EMA, this thing's continuing to look bearish, which is decent for the bulls. The bulls for the S&P 500 and etc. For the dollar, it's just trading flat, not really doing anything significant. For Coinbase, if it wants to turn very bullish, it has to break and hold above 60. For now, it's just stuck in this chop zone between 55 and like 60, going back and forth and back and forth. If it holds below the 200 EMA, it's going to likely come all the way down to lower levels. One thing that's a little concerning, though, is on the 4 hour, it's about to get a bearish cross. So it is looking a little bit weaker, but it is still stuck between support and resistance, even on the 4 hour time frame. So I believe it's just going to chop around for a while. It may get a pump thanks to the market possibly tomorrow. But other than that, it still looks very sideways, not really doing too much. So we just have to be unbiased and wait for that. For Aapl, it's looking very strong right now, very bullish cross on the 4 hour time frame. It's very close to all-time highs. We could see this thing try to go for new ones, but we have to wait. So if it turns bullish, it's going to likely try to test all-time highs at this point. If it breaks them, we could see new all-time highs to about 188. If it breaks that, 190 could come. If it gets above this like 187.5 resistance zone. If it breaks down, we're going to be watching 186.5, 185. 186, then 185, then 183.4 below that, then 182.5. Apple's still holding up quite nicely. There's no like negative divergence forming or anything like that. So there's no signal that this thing is going to get rejected or any sign of it just yet. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Typically when we pump this hard, we tend to see it gap down and maybe continue going tomorrow. If Apple breaks a new all-time high, this could help the market big time. But we have to watch for support and resistance. It is still looking bullish, so I'm really hoping it continues to pump, and the odds do favor that. For Nvidia, this thing is once again trying to hold up. If it breaks above this resistance at 430, because it's currently right there, we could see this thing go for that 435 and potentially even 439 to 440 after that. If it breaks to the downside, because the trend is still not looking the strongest, it has major support around 425, 422, 420, 416, and potentially 414. However, as of right now, it's kind of just trading in a zone, going back and forth, not really doing too much. It's not really downtrending too hard or like pushing up too hard. It's just kind of stuck. And I believe that Nvidia is going to make an attempt to follow the market tomorrow. I don't think too much is happening. I think it's going to try to pump with the Nasdaq. I think there's a good chance we could get a retest of 435. But like I said before, I always like to be very, patient with it and just give it time and watch for those confirmation levels. Waiting for confirmation is one of the things that a lot of traders, it can cause them to become impatient because it's very tedious, could be kind of boring for a lot of people. Just wait and see how things go. But other than that, I mean, Nvidia is still holding up nicely. I'm not seeing it crashing or doing anything like that. There's a good chance it's going to get a retest of 435, and we'll see if it rejects or not. But overall, it's still holding up. It still looks pretty decent. Google was very tight. It actually got a nice bounce off this just above the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. If it keeps going up, we're going to be watching resistance at 125. If it breaks that, could get closer to about 127 again. And then after that could come 130, but that's going to take a lot. So far, it's trying very hard to get that. Overall, the trend on Google looks pretty decent. I mean, it is technically like downtrending in a way, but it's trying to get across on the 4 hours. So it's trying to make its way up. It needs to hold above this 50 EMA to remain bullish. If it breaks below it, that could be a bearish signal. But we need to hold above the 50. If it holds 123.5, this is going to be a very good sign, and it's going to have potential to push to 127. The odds favor that, but we need to be open-minded just to be safe. Amazon was strong. It's still continuing to pump in the after hours. I'm not seeing anything bearish about the chart right now. 4-hour looks strong, looks quite solid. I mean, the next level we're going to be watching for is 132. If it manages to get up there, that's going to be a very good sign. And if you just look at the chart, zooming out, I mean, it's just on this very, very strong uptrend. It's just continuing to uptrend. There's no sign of weakness in the overall trend just yet, and it's continuing to break to new highs. I think there's a good chance Amazon can try to get to 132.5, and if it breaks that 135, could come. The trend is looking strong, so we'll see for tomorrow. Overall, make sure you watch those levels carefully. If it breaks down, watch 130 as support because it is above 130 right now. 128 is going to be support. After that comes 126. I think that's going to be the next important level. Below that comes 125.61 and then 123.85, followed by 120. Right now it's strong. There's just nothing weak about this, so I can't really say it's going to like reverse or anything like that. I'm not seeing signals of it. Might have got a nice break today. I was waiting for it, and we actually got a nice confirmation to the upside for the time being. We're about to get a bullish cross on the 4 hours, so it still looks strong and has potential to make its way up to about 287.5. If it breaks that, it could get all the way up to the 290s. If it breaks down, we're going to be watching support around this 282.5 area, 280 flat, 279, 276, 272, and etc. So we're going to be watching all these support and resistance levels. It's looking very strong right now. I really like this trend, especially as it pumped during the final 4 hours of the day. The 4 hour is still looking quite nice. It has potential to make its way up, in my opinion, to get closer to about 290 as long as this trend remains. Overall, looks good. The market looks set for a decent move tomorrow. Now, just to be clear, I gave you guys the bullish and bearish cases, but I told you where I'm leaning more towards, and that is going to be the upside tomorrow. But don't forget, we also want to look for confirmation. We want to see SPY break above 437.2 and hold it. If it does so, it has potential to pump even more. With that said, thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular day. Watch support and resistance and just know which direction I'm leaning in. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't always know how things will go, but I am still leaning in the direction the market's going to hold up nicely. And I am seeing lots of signs of strength. And I think those market makers may try to squeeze a lot of shorts. I am leaning in that direction. That's what I have for this video. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, everyone. Market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.